Alrighty, lost the stream there for a moment. Hopefully everybody comes back. I apologize for that. Check my sound. So, all right, we're doing a late day Q&A here for trade ideas. So, all right, we do it, an open Q&A forum. I see a few people trickling in now. I apologize. I don't know what happened there. Just had a good week of stream working out well, and then today, I don't know, a hiccup, and I lost it and booted everybody again. So I do apologize for that. Resize my windows here. I know I had someone yesterday, Terry, was saying it was a little hard to see some of the lines and the data that was on my screen. So I just resized this a little bit, see if it makes it a little clearer for everybody. I want to do this Q&A and then everybody can't really see well. It doesn't make any sense. There we go. So anything but a quiet day today, apparently. Continue to resize these. I do this as an open forum Q&A, so the content is driven by you folks with your questions. I don't have anything pre-done, obviously. Broken record here every day. I try to keep it interesting, keep it moving if I'm speaking into the void. Go around a few charts, some thoughts. We'll pop around the AI, some overall market pictures, kind of stuff like that. I always disclaimer I am no chartered market technician or anything like that. I just, happen to like to look at charts is all. So one of the things that I have been looking at, the inverse ETFs here, SPXU, pretty steady climb for the rest of the day after that initial move up in the market and that initial bounce. We'll see what that means for the long term here. These ETFs, these inverse ETFs, they don't give you a good market picture. They're rebalanced I don't know if it's every quarter or how they do it. You have to look at each one, do your due diligence if you're ever going to trade these. These aren't things you want to hold overnight. They're really day trading vehicles. But some of these different leverage ETFs here, if you're an experienced trader, I don't think these are things that someone that has not been trading for a few years should be playing with, to be honest. Only, these are something that I didn't use until probably year 3 of trading for me. If the market was, having a tantrum like it's having the last, week or so now, I kind of sat out during those times. It was just, what worked better for me. A little more experience now, I'll dabble into these, but again, I'm careful. I smaller share sizes on these things. They can really, they can turn on a dime on you, and you don't want to be caught the wrong way on any of these here. But it's, a way to play the short side without shorting, and you can kind of continue to follow, if you have a moving average that you happen to like to use as a guiding hand during the day, things like that, whether RSI, something like that, those technical indicators intraday will work well. What you can't do with these is, look at a big picture on a daily chart. The big picture on the daily chart comes from the actual market pictures, what those are playing off of. But like I said, that has to do with rebalancing and things like that. So, and again, I throw out, this is an open forum Q&A. I don't have pre-done content. I also don't know if anybody's really here, to be honest, and if I'm just speaking into the void, but I'll continue like there is an audience all the same. But my point being is that I like when you folks engage, ask the questions, drive the content that way. And again, I apologize. I can see people kind of coming in and out. I don't know if they're real or not. Um, I lost the stream. I clicked the wrong button. I think was what happened. So I apologize. That was my error. Okay, Walter, Debbie, excellent. At least I have two people that I know I'm speaking to for sure. So, um, so I always kind of bang on that. Excellent, perfect, perfect. All right. Um, Glad to know that I'm not just speaking into the void. Not that I mind. I always tease that I enjoy the sound of my own voice, so I like to talk a lot. Uh, One of the things that I bang on for my personal use of trade ideas, and I think a lot of people could benefit from something like this, is I keep symbol lists, and I use them to narrow down the data when I am deciding to do some day trading versus swing trading, and it kind of helps me in the sense that where a lot of times people have a lot of alert windows and top lists going at the same time during the day, and bells and dings and whistles going off and lights flashing, and it's difficult to keep up on all that data at once. Think about in any given day in your life where you're trying to keep up with the amount of news articles that are coming in, or books that you're reading and things like that. Now try to condense all that, and you have X amount of time frame with all these things coming at you. uh, that's why I like to use those lists. So here I use the my liked. I like to utilize that. It makes it really easy. I have the hearts on the chart, makes it real clear and easy for me to use. And so you can see here, I'm looking at a lot of inverse ETFs here, and that's kind of what I've been playing. And if we come here, with the exception of GSK that alerted on the day, all inverse ETFs that came through my list here. And again, I should change this. It's not an automated list. I was testing something with automation. I decided that I wasn't going to go forward with it, and I just never changed it. But this essentially looks at my like too. So it's a top list that looks at my like symbols, and alert window. It's just really simple that I created that looks at my like symbols. But even with all that said, GSK looked like it was going to be the darling that bucked the trend, and it just could not do it. It moved up against the early move down in the market, and then the market actually moved up, and GSK has just been a slow bleeder the rest of the day, and hence why just, not even buying strength or anything like that when we're having a pull down like this. So, all right, let's see. Debbie on compare count have trouble reconciling where the chart line is and the ratio of green shows in the cylinder on the left. It's not so much time frames. So I'll bring mine over for you real quick, because it's going to go kind of coincide with where you are in the day, essentially. So you can see how mine is here. And what I'm looking at is new highs versus new lows, section by market cap. And so we can see here, over this last little blip here, we're not having any new highs. And the new lows were really, making their move up. Now that's kind of faded here a little bit into the close, this last little bit. And if you watch, if you have a window that's similar to this, and you are watching these new highs versus new lows, watch a SPY chart. A SPY chart's a real good example of this. So, for example, we can see that the new lows are moving back down again. We're not making a bunch of new lows like we had been. And if I bring over a SPY chart now, we can see that the SPY is moving up again here on the close. So, perhaps what the analogy that I'm making there is helping a little bit. And it's going to depend on how you have the compare count windows configured. So the ones that I use are actually ones Jamie had created a long, long, long time ago. And we can go into the configure of these here. And they're all essentially the same except for the market cap. So if we come into, you have green data and red data, obviously. And then, you might want to, I don't know if you want to play with these here. I've never messed with these, to be honest with you. But if we come into the configure here, it's essentially the alert window configure. And so, the EPS hacks are there to keep out the ETFs. And then distance from market, inside market, that's to keep out bad prints. And then we're just doing market cap here and a little bit of volume to make sure we've got stocks that are making moves coming through on those. And that's the magic trick right there. That and the new high alert. And so, and then the last part you were mentioning the ratio here on the cylinders. And so we can see right now the ratio to this point in the day, new highs versus new lows. So you've got, 74% moving to the new low side on these larger caps versus 20, I think it was 6%. So that's based on when I started the window today, and this started from the market open today at 9:30 Eastern time for myself, and so that's what we're looking at right now. So earlier in the day, actually, this was a much higher or much more even ratio, and as the day's gone on and the sellings continue to push and the new lows have continued to push, this cylinder has gotten bigger for the sell side, for the new low side, essentially. I guess I didn't cover that in the red data. I apologize there, Debbie. So if we come back into the configure here, um, so the green data, which is what I showed you, and then the red data, and that's this here. So everything else was the same in this, the market, distance from market, market cap, all those things like that. But on the selected alerts, we're looking at new lows on the red data. And so that's how that works. Hopefully that makes sense to you. Let me know if not. And also, I don't know, have you seen the user guide section on this? And yes, or well, it's not just for the day. It'll be, so for example, like if I started this right now, watch this, Debbie. If I duplicate this right now, it's going to start it from right now. So duplicate in the free floating window. And now here it is, and it's going to take a second to populate. So we're at 50-50, and then it's going to come and look, see now it's 60-40. All right, based on, because it's from when it just started, and it's catching up real fast. But you can see now it's a lot more affected because it's, this is looking at an entire day's worth of data and comparing what's happening now to what's gone on for the whole day, versus this just had to start at 3:43 Eastern, so it doesn't have the rest of the day's data to go back on, if that makes sense. Or 3:42, whatever. I see 3:43 here. That's why I said that. But I started technically the minute before. The clock had just changed. Right. Yep. Yep. That's exactly, you got it. And then just in case you haven't seen it, let me find a couple things here to share for the compare count windows for anybody that wants, wants to go in a little bit more here. That's from the user's guide. And then I have this video here. That's a pretty good video too. If I can find it somewhere. Where, oh, where are you? Sheets. Sorry, trying to go through all these documents that I have here. Compare count, copy, and there we go. And so there's a video also on that too. So all right, TRD, I saw your question there. I have a question, guys. The question is, what is shelf registration? How does it affect stock price? I have no idea what a shelf registration is. Never heard of that in my entire life. Sorry. I don't know, ping the other trader guys that are, I've been doing this for about 5 years. Some of them have been doing it for 30. Let me see if they know. I asked the other trader guys that perhaps they've heard of it. I'm a very, very simple trader. I don't know a lot of fancy things. Sometimes I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. Okay, so Steve is telling me it's like a secondary offering. And they have the right to drop at any time if they want to exercise it. So essentially it's a secondary offering that's sitting in wait that can be dropped on you. Oh, perfect circle new. Yeah, you got a perfect circle. Essentially, that's it. That was going to be my next step, was Investopedia, but I figured I'd ask one of those guys. Very good. All right. Moving right along. And of course, I throw it out there again. I see, like I said, people come in and out of this here. It's an open forum, so anybody with questions, fire away, whether it's on the software and you want to look at a chart. As always, a disclaimer, I am no CMT as of yet, anyways. We're working on it. And perhaps you can hear some amateur music in the background. My daughter is taking some viola lessons. The walls are thin here. Yeah, well, TRD, that'll happen with any offering. Anytime they're essentially diluting their stock price, or diluting the shares. So all of a sudden, you had 100 shares at $100, and now all of a sudden they offer onto the open market 100 more shares at $80, or however they decide to do that, and that'll tank the price of a stock. All the fun things. Usually things like that are not done during market hours. It's kind of shady when they do that during market hours. You'll see it, done in the pre-market or in the post-market. I think more in the pre-market than the post-market, to be honest. It's never fun when that happens. And a time that can happen is, a stock that, maybe a company that has been struggling recently and all of a sudden sees a big jump in stock price. They can take advantage of that jump in the stock price for secondary to raise money a lot of times for the company. So those are the things to be aware of with that. I want to close this down a little bit because I like to display all the data in that single stock window there. Specifically, I want to see the lifetime high. There we go. So, all right, fire away questions for me. Keep me engaged. Let's keep it going. So, all right, where are we at? Spies trying to fight back above the line. Big line there. Question two: what happens if I short a stock of a company that does a dilution some way in the same day? Um, you win. I mean, as long as you're above that price, it won't matter. It won't affect. It won't affect what you've done with your trade, other than the fact that the price dropped, and that if you were short above that price, it'll help you out in your position. An easy way to filter out SPACs, you could try like a revenue filter, maybe. Um, let's see. This is just a SPAC off the top of my head. So yeah, they're probably not going to have revenue. So you could probably use a revenue filter is what I would throw out there. Probably not going to have an earnings date, but I wouldn't use earnings date. Um, what else? What else? What else? Yeah, I would think of something along the revenue or quarterly revenue growth, or any of those things like that. That kind of fundamental data that they are not or don't have to report. I mean, the only issue that you run into is that, um, if a company, for whatever reason, our data provider, which will be FactSet, is not reporting the revenue for that company, you'll miss that company too if it's a regular company. We're kind of at the mercy of them, unfortunately, when it comes to that stuff. It really sucks. The only other thing that you can check here is, if you go to symbols lists and we go down to add existing lists, you have these ones here, SPAC testing. Um, we continue to work on technology to try to catch these things. The problem is, it's looking for certain language, certain words captured that it will get added to that list automatically. You can do it with SPACs. You can do it with any of these lists here. You can add any of these lists: SPACs, ETFs, ADRs, and warrants. They all exist. Like I said, they don't catch them all, unfortunately. We continue to try to figure out a way to do it. It's just hard getting all those add them to a list there like that. But that would be it. Those would be the things for me. I mean, I would think most legit companies, anyways, they're gonna have a reported revenue. So I think that might be your answer there. But you go through others here. We just take a quick stroll around the block, and configure and think if anything there. Some pretty heavy selling coming in here. What are we looking for? Search filters. Obviously, none of these. None of these. None of this. Nope, it would qualify all these things. I was checking on options volume. All these would qualify them still. Let's see. And again, with anybody else with questions, just because I'm working on one thing or engaging with someone else doesn't mean you can't fire away questions. I will circle back to anything that comes in. Wonder if current assets. No, probably not. Obviously, debt not, because that's what they are. It's debt, anyways. Um, I will give you the generic answer, TRD, that I would give anybody. Anything is risky, especially if you don't have a trading plan with it. For me personally, I don't do IPOs. There's not enough chart data. I need chart data for me to trade something. Some stocks more or less, but I got to see at least a month of chart data on a daily chart for me to consider anything. I'm also doing everything that I do based all on technical analysis. I don't care what the news is. I don't care if your company's profitable. I don't care what you make. I don't care what you do. I don't care who works for you. I don't care where you're located. The only thing that matters to me is the price on the chart and the direction it's been moving, generally speaking. And that's it for me. So, um, like anything, whether it's an IPO or it's a company that's been around since 1890, you have to have a plan. If you TRD, you can't answer certain questions before jumping in a trade, you should never jump in a trade. Among those questions, and you can always add to this list, is why am I getting in this trade? What's my catalyst to say buy? What is my stop? What gets me out on the downside? That should really be the first question you're asking yourself, because as traders, what we really are is risk managers. Um, so if you don't have a price that you promise yourself you're getting out on the downside and a reason for that price, not just some arbitrary price, um, do not press buy or sell. That's something that was ingrained in me very, very early on, and probably one of the only reasons that I survived my first year plus of trading was the only thing that I was actually good at was obeying my stop losses. I was terrible at taking profits on winning trades, terrible at it. If I had learned early to take profits earlier, and how to manage my winners, but that you have to ask yourself, how am I managing this trade when I'm in it? That's it. You have to be able to answer those questions. That's it. And anything good products there. Price and volume to some extent, anyways. Volume again becomes relative to what my plan is on that stock specifically. So yeah, you know what? Perfect circle. It's going to come down to, revenue and or EPS, quarterly growth, any of those things like that is where you're going to be stuck at, I think. Perfect circle. Sorry, I was got lost in thought there. As far as getting rid of the SPACs as quote unquote, a filter hack to do that. Indicators that I use, all I use are an 8 EMA and a 20 SMA on all time frames. And on a daily chart, I like a position in 20-day range, the low of a 20-day. So like if we zoom in here on, as a crappy chart, let me get a good chart here. Well, I always like a SPY chart to illustrate this. So that's your 20 SMA. That's an 8 EMA. Those are just the colors that I selected for it. And this black line that kind of looks like almost like stairs, sort of, that's a period low of 20 days, essentially. And I happen to like 20-day periods when I'm doing charting work in general. I like to look at bigger time frames overall. I have been recently day trading more over the last couple of months. I started as a day trader. I was not really great at it. It was a lot of, 2 steps forwards and 1.9 steps backwards, and very frustrating for me once I became a quote unquote more profitable than more losing day trader. And I started to find that a lot of things worked better for me when I took smaller share size, wider stops, and held for a day or two. This market has been choppy. I've gone back the other way now. Still smaller share size, even smaller share size, but cutting winners much quicker when they're up. And so that's it for me. I don't like a lot of noise on the charts. Price and volume, that's what I want on a chart. I used to have 200 SMA on here, a 10 SMA, a 50 SMA, a 100 SMA. And I've eliminated all of them. Essentially, I just recently took the 50 off also. And TRD, one of the reasons I started doing this late day Q&A, nope, I don't care about VWAP. One of the reasons I started doing this late day Q&A is to help not just new people with trade ideas, but new traders in general. Technically we're not allowed to talk or not allowed to teach trading, but I can talk about risk management, and you can interpret that any single way. I'm never gonna, myself or Barry or Steve, Andy, Jamie, anybody like that's never gonna tell you what to buy, sell, hold, or do. We can give you some thoughts on a chart where these different ideas that are on them, but we're never gonna say that's a buyer area, that's a sell area. We're never gonna do any of those things. But one of the things that I wish that was shared with me a lot more. I paid a lot more attention to at the very beginning of me learning to trade, because I'm a completely self-taught trader, was about risk management, that we're risk managers. And if you can't answer risk management questions, you're putting yourself behind the eight ball. So the fact that you're even talking about stop losses are a must, that puts you leaps and bounds ahead. Why we have EMA on chart, but we don't have them in alert. Gaming, listen, you are preaching to the choir about EMAs. Uh, Here's the thing with the charts: the server and the math that goes behind them is really, really simple. It's easy for us to put in most indicators as long as they don't have a big graphical part to them. So things that are just a wiggly line, like moving averages, real simple. When you talk about indicators that have bigger graphical indicators, we have issues. That's where the problem comes in for those. That's charting. When we get to filters and alerts, we're adding literally millions of data points into our servers. And for whatever reason, the coding behind all that stuff is extremely difficult and long, and it's not just easily added. Uh, a filter that we had recently added was float turnover, and it took months of data organizing and code writing and all those things like that to get that one filter put in, and that's just for float turnover, not even a moving average. So I won't pretend to understand all of it. I am someone who bangs on the inside here about why we can't have these things, and I'm met with, because it's hard and complicated, and that's all. I don't code, so I don't really know. I have no argument in the game with them. So that's my short and skinny on it. There it was, in fact, a discussion again this week. And then Mitchell, I'm on beta release. How can I go back to delete and download? Mitchell, it won't change anything in your cloud. What you'll have to do is uninstall. So go into go into your control panel, uninstall the version that you're on now, and then just re-download and install 5.32. And I'm curious why you want to go back, because I'm on the beta version. I'm on the public beta version right now, and I haven't had anything happen that's unusual to me in it. Connected IB, doing all the trading and all that stuff through there. And again, yeah, TRD. No, I'm not a VWAP guy. I mean, once in a while, like an anchored VWAP on some some major things. Like something that kind of would interest me is anchored VWAP on the chart here. Let's do an anchored VWAP now. So let's look back at the beginning of last year. Let's anchor a VWAP to the beginning of last year to what's going on now. And so there we go. There's my anchored VWAP here. And look at that nice steady line. I'd say that's a major. If we were to get to that, then you want to start looking at some real major quote unquote crash talk, maybe being realistic. I'm one of those big picture guys though. Everybody calling tops nonstop. Nobody ever made any money calling tops. Nobody, literally. Well, there's still a question why there isn't a crossover. Work around finding conditions true. Yes, we have the crossover alerts, but like I've said in the past, they have that built-in volume confirmation in them. And unfortunately, removing that destroys the rest of the coding of the alert. Again, another thing that I've beat the drum on inside here, that, these things should be cleaned up. Again, I'm not a coder, so I voiced my opinion in your, in your honor. Whenever I see the requests and stuff come in, I tag every single one of them as feature requests and ship them over to the development team so that their pile continues to grow. Still having issues with Holly. Huh. What issues are you still Mitchell, send in an email to me at info@trade-ideas. Tell me what the issues are. Send me as many screenshots as you can of your your positions tab. your orders tab, your executions tab, all those things like that from Brokerage Plus. Send me your support files again. And then your computer isn't like going to sleep during the day. You're not logging in from a second location during the day. And I just had someone today that they sent me a video that they were doing all the right steps for setting up Holly. But what they left out is that they close their laptop after they're done. And so they close the program and it shuts everything down. So it was just, they were doing everything right except they were closing the program. So these are all like little things. Some of it's hard to see on my end, but I want to get you running. I don't like to see people with issues. And um we ran Holly. I don't know if Jamie is still doing it, but he ran Holly in an E-Trade account for months, probably half a year. We're just buying one share, that was it, to make sure it was working in a live E-Trade account, and we had no issues with Holly for I don't know 6, 7, 8 months. And there are people that I know are doing it right now. I don't know if they're successful in the actual trading of it, but it's working. So I want to get you set back up, Mitchell, and I want you to be able to use that public beta. Would you suggest what number SMA will reflect a 9 EMA? So let's take a look at the list of what we got here. Probably a 5 SMA is going to be your closest bet. Configure. You got to work with what we have in here. Search. Let's search let's go with filters and then SMA. And, you got to look at the different periods on the charts too here. So, you've got this 5 period on a 2 minute, 5 minute, 15 minute. You're going to want to go with these smaller time frame SMA because the way they work is how they calculate off the closing of the candles or not off the closing of the candles. I don't know the exact math in it, but essentially EMAs react quicker than SMAs. Generally speaking, no, there shouldn't be. I work 7 days a week. I mean, I am always doing something with software, answering emails throughout the entire weekend. Like I don't stop. um, so odds are if you send in an email on the weekend, you're getting me or Stephanie. We call her Steffi inside the thing, but she, her scouts will reply as Stephanie. So you get one of the two of us. I don't generally see anything going on. I know the other night there was an issue. We had a server cleanup, or I don't know, something with the server was going on. Again, they try to explain technical stuff to me and it goes over my head. And it was down for about 45 minutes. Maybe that was last week, actually. And then this past weekend, we had the web version go down. I don't know what caused that, but the web version was down for a few hours on this past Sunday. That I know for sure. But if anything pops up, Debbie, you send an email in. Myself or Steffi are always there during the weekend. In and out. Might be an hour or two before one of us gets back to you, but one of us will get back if there's an issue. And then one of the things that'll always, always, always help us whenever anybody's having issues is any screenshots you can include or anything that might have been going on at that moment that was different, or anything you saw. Just a lot of times, every day we get several emails that say my platform isn't working, and it really doesn't allude to anything for us. So the more details we have, the quicker we can troubleshoot what's going on. Do you think traders give up easy and stop trading? Yes. Human beings by nature do not like to be uncomfortable. They do not like adversity. They do not like to fail, and they do not like to be wrong. The biggest issue that human beings and trading have is that you could be wrong 40% of the time, wrong 60% of the time, and technically be a successful trader. If you're R to R, your reward to risk is a good reward to risk. The problem is people have a hard time accepting that they're wrong and moving their stop. So for example, let's just pretend, all right, this is my stop in the SPY, and I bought here, and this is going to be my stop, and we had support here, and that's going to be my target. And all of a sudden I bought it here and it moved up and it didn't didn't move up like I wanted. I didn't decide to take profits here. And now it's fading. And I decide, you know what, let me move the goalpost back to here and back to here because I can't accept that I'm wrong here. And all of a sudden, that $100 loss here becomes a $200 loss here. It becomes a $400 loss here. And a few of those, and all of a sudden, someone says, well, I just can't keep giving up money like that. Where it wasn't that you were giving up money, you weren't following your business plan. And the second thing that I think people have an issue with is they think trading is a job. Trading is not a job. I will die on that hill. Trading is a business. You don't go to the bank and say, I want a loan for a job. You go to the bank and you say, I want a loan to start a business. In this case, you are the bank and you want a loan from yourself to start your trading business. There is not a bank on this planet that would give you a loan without a business model. Therefore, you should not give yourself a loan to trade without a business model. If everybody that approached trading approached it like that, I think you'd see the numbers skew a little differently. But that's just the way it goes. And then is anything done to speed up the pinging the charts? So it takes around 3 seconds. I am told, Devi, I'm not going to give the time frame that I was told, but in the very, very, very near future, I am told that charts will update in half a second. That's what I'm told by people directly working with the developers on this. Whether or not that happens, I can't say. I'm one of those people that, there you can see my charts. That is not so greatly 1 minute the chart loads fine, the next minute I get, 2 or 3 seconds. So I am told that it is near being implemented for testing. No, this is not an easy market. And you know what's funny is when markets are going down, it's easier to trade. When markets are going up, it's easier to trade. When markets are going sideways, it's hard as hell to trade because you're like, all right, we look like we're making the up move. I'm going long. No, we're back down. All right, looks like we're making the down move. I'm going to go short. It's back up. And this chart illustrates it better than anything. This mid cap trust here. Look at this. This hasn't gone anywhere. This is an equally weighted mid cap trust. Okay, this is March of last year. This is right now. We have literally gone nowhere in a year here. So two things I take from this. One, when people tell me, we're due for a crash. Well, how is that due for a crash? That's an entire year of going nowhere. How does that make us due for a crash? Number one. Second, how do you find a trend in this? The trend is sideways. How do you find there's no uptrend? We're moving up, we move down. We're moving up, we move back down. Moving up? No, we're moving down. We're moving up? No, we move back down. All right, this time we're really moving up. Oh, wait, no, we're back to the bottom of the range again. This time we're really moving up. We popped out of the range. Oh, wait, no, we popped right back down. And I think you get the point now. All right. And that's not the only one that's doing that. Again, here's an RSP. Chart eventually, someday. This is your equally weighted SPY chart. Again, this is where we were in April. This is where we are today. That's not a whole lot of movement there. We're not up very much in that. That's all there is to it. That is not a market that has ripped to new all-time highs to go from this all-time high when it did that there to go to this all-time high here. That's not exactly ripping. We look at things like this here where we're cap weighted in the Qs, and it's a lot different look. So we're in two different markets right now. High beta stocks that trade in things like the Qs, they're getting slaughtered. Tech that's had big market cap weightings is getting slaughtered. This here to there, that was a good moonshot up there. All right, we're coming back down, revision to the mean. That's the way this all works, always and forever. And anybody that ever says different this time, make sure you mute them. It is never different. Time frames might change a little bit. Things might go on a little longer or a little shorter. There are always going to be some sort of adjustments. The market's always going to go up in the long-term frame. Things never change. Not the South Sea bubble, not the tulip bubble, not the tech bubble, not the real estate bubble, not one of them. Never changes. The drum beats on exactly the same always. The revision to the mean. Now you have to ask yourself that revision to the mean, on what time frame am I looking for that revision to the mean? And that's not the to include things like, you know, low float bios that have, phase 2 or 3 news and things like that. Those are different mechanisms than the overall market. They're, amoebas that live within inside this giant organism. Um, yeah, no, I'm with you, Debbie. It's gone on a little longer than it should have for sure. But it was, it's like looking for a needle in a needle stack, unfortunately, with that, with the charts. Me risk reward 1 2 till now is impossible. You think about scalping as some traders do crypto. Um, I think again, so the biggest thing that I learned for me when it comes to whether it's going to be scalping or swing trading or anything like that is know your personality. I thought could do scalping. It seems like, oh, it's real easy. I'll take, 5,000 shares. And if it moves, 4 cents, and I can do that 10 times a day, hey, I'm doing all right. But the problem is I'm not one of those people that can mentally handle taking that big a share size and watching it move against me and things like that. Other people can handle swings and all those things like that. It just did not work for me. So I think a big part of trading is knowing who you are, being really true to who you are as a person. That's kind of my 2 cents. I wasn't one of those people that can handle those big swings. What Barry does, if you're ever in the trading room with Barry with some of those stocks, some stuff that he day trades that, I can handle those things. There's some stuff that's real whippy and larger spreads and things like that. I can't mentally handle them. That's all there is to it. So I think, there are many, many ways, there are many strategies that work or many types of trading that work, but it's finding a plan that works for you with that strategy. That's what it kind of comes down to. Yeah, like I said, we have perfect circle going back to talking about the actual trader talk. We have certain things that we have to abide by because we're not licensed for certain things. We're content providers, not advisors. But there's no harm in talking about risk rewards and trading plans and things like that. So um, it is what it is. And look, I'm a parrot essentially. Um, and what do I mean by that? 90% of what you hear me talk about is stuff that I stole from Andy, Jamie, Steve, Barry, Sean, Michael. A few of the books that I've read and things like that. The only original thing that I actually came up with that was on my own is that trading is a business and not a job. It kind of just struck me one day. I don't know how or why, but just constantly people hammering in my head, trading plan, trading plan, trading plan, and all of a sudden trading plan turned into business plan in my head. And I kind of just came up with that analogy. You don't go to a bank without asking for a loan without a plan behind that business for that loan. uh, you know in this scenario, you're asking for the loan from the bank. You're everything in this scenario. That's all. Topless windows give you a 5-minute section. That's the way they work. How they come from the server like that. So if you go to a time frame and use historical date, you have to pick that moment, and it gives you a 5-minute time clip. So for example, we just go like let's go with 2 o'clock and at 2:20 here like this on this day, and that's going to give you a 5-minute time frame of what was going on during those 5 minutes. um a good way to, if you ever want to like go back on anything and you want to like, what was the stock doing at this time, I would suggest this. I'm going to load this up. Barry gave me this, or well, he gave a bunch of people this, and then you can always edit this too the way you want. So I'm going to load from, first I'm going to share it, then I'm going to bring it up. No, sorry, pressing wrong buttons here. Load from cloud. It's like he made his own kind of stocks like this alert window. stocks like this template. So first I'm going to share it. You're welcome to load it up and kind of follow along. All right. And essentially what Barry did is he took all these columns and he put them in a scan like this. Okay. And then if we go into the scan, we right click and we come into the configure of the scan. All we have is a new high alert in here. All right. And we can change that anytime we want. If we want to see different alerts, what alerts would have triggered for a stock. There is not one filter in here. All it is these columns. He's just added all these columns to it. And you could swap any of these columns out. All right. And so we could say, for example, stock, let's just say in the configure, we can come to the symbols list tab. All right. And we can say, gee, Apple never alerted on my scan. Why didn't alert? All right. And so we're going to take Apple as the example here. And we're going to go, all right, Apple, I'm going to put you here. Sorry, you have to change this first. Go all symbols, then go single symbol because it won't let you do. All right. So now we're looking at only Apple for this data. And we go, okay. All right. And then I can say, compare it to the scan that Apple didn't show up in. And I can have, the filters, for example, I could take a screenshot of the filters and hold them over. So let's just pretend for a second that, let's just say, gee, why didn't Apple alert on this scan? So I come to configure. I'm going to go to the Windows specific filter and I'm going to take a snapshot of what my stuff is here. All right. And we can close that. We're going to bring this back up. And then I can bring over this after I run the history on the day of Apple here. So right click, history, today. And I can see what Apple was doing with all these different stats here. What its change from close was, what its average true range was, what its change in 1 minute was, all day long here, up and down this whole thing. All right. And then I can bring over my screenshot and I can say, oh, gee, it didn't have this average daily volume it didn't meet, or it didn't, my average true range was a 10 and it only had a 4 average true range. And that's why it didn't get there, so you can go line by line and say, oh, well, it didn't alert to this time because it didn't cross the volume metrics I had in there at this time. So, this is a really good way to go back and troubleshoot yourself if you want. I mean, you guys can always, guys and girls, you can always say, you can always email us and say, hey, stock ABC didn't come up on my alert window. Can you help me out with why? This is literally what we do. We'll let you know why. But for those of you that, want to dig deeper into data yourself, you don't even need to do this for troubleshooting. You could simply just say, gee, these stocks are interesting to me for a certain reason or whatever reason. And I want to know what the data was going on behind those stocks. And you can do this. But I'll also share with you this underutilized feature here. We call it our stocks like this page. So, all right, I'm going to bring over this here. So if you're on our website, doesn't matter where you are, whether you're on the home page itself or you're on any of these here. All right. If you go to support, all right. So you got all these tabs. If you go to support and you scroll down a little bit and you go to traders area, there's a whole bunch of cool stuff in here already. You want to know the AI trade descriptions and things like that. But if you go to stocks like this, you can type in a symbol and get everything returned for a 5-minute clip. So let's just say, let's go with mRNA. It's just at the top of the list here, right? You can type in any symbol you want. Now the data, the historical data on this is not as good as a scan's historical data. Also, the OTC data, OTC and Pink Sheets data is not as great in this as well. But we can type this in, and so we're looking at the date. We can change dates here. We can't go back as far, but we can catch what happened today. We can pick a time frame here throughout the day. All right, when we want it. All right, so and we can pick the duration 5, 10, 15, all the way up to 60 minutes. So we've got mRNA, and what was mRNA doing at the first 5 minutes of the open today? All right, and you can do pre-market. All right. And we click submit. And now literally Every alert that was alerted during those first 5 minutes is here. So this is every alert that actually happened. It made a new high ask, it crossed above resistance, it also crossed below the close. Trailing stop alerts, 1 minute volume spike. All these alerts were met in those first 5 minutes. Every single one of these alerts would have triggered if you just had the alert selected during those first 5 minutes of mRNA. Then we can go in and we can see the filters that it also qualified. So we can see what its price range was. We can see its number of prints, all right, average number of prints. We can see 10-day average. We can see a 3-month average on volume here. What its 5-minute volume was. It was in between, doing well under what it normally does on 5 minutes, also doing almost 6 times what it normally does in 5 minutes. So it had that range of volume, all these things. And it's another way to also take us, say, I want to catch stocks like stock ABC did this thing today. How do I find stocks that did this? Well, you would come and say, well, at that time, this is what it did. I can load up and I can see what its average true range was, what its 1 minute volume was, what its 1 minute range was, all these different things, consecutive candles if I want. Every one of these things is at your disposal, and you can back engineer a scan this way. And anytime a stock does exactly what that stock did at that time, you could have a scan for that. Now, obviously, you want to have ranges on things. You don't want to just nail it down to only stocks that are stock that only did this amount of volume. That's where you have minimum and maximum values that come in, because at the end of the day, we're trade ideas and you want to return ideas to yourself with the software and how those ideas may or may not work. So this scan that's behind here is essentially trying to do what this is doing, just a little more pointed is all, where this is giving you a much bigger clip here. You can also, with the scan, go back much further in history too. And you can also dictate the data you want to see. On this, it's returning you every filter, every alert. On this, you might only care about if it's a new high or a cross resistance alert, or you only want to know 5 or different filters. So you don't need to see all this filter nonsense. You just, you add the columns that you want to see. And if there's a column that's not here, and you come to configure, all right, and you can search and you can click on any one of these filters. As soon as I get to a filter, you can click on any one of these filters and you can say show column, and then you can manage the columns you see here. So for example, over here is all your selected columns, and you say, I really don't care about the change from close. I don't need to know that, and it's interrupting other data I'm looking at. Boom, change from close is gone. I don't need to really know the 2-minute RSI. So you highlighted it and left to right click, and now it's gone. This is what's displayed here. So, a couple different ways to get at the data and do your homework and your research. And this is why, a lot of times we get all these, requests for one-on-ones. And it's from people that haven't, even opened the software yet. And, at the price it costs to do a one-on-one, come to these. We do this twice every single day for an hour long, every single market day. We do, come to these for a while. And then if you want to really drill down on something in the software and you insist on a one-on-one, yeah, we get you, a one-on-one. It's going to cost you, obviously. But, we have so much free stuff here and the software is so vast that you could spend $10,000 on one-on-ones with us and still not know everything about, still not know everything about the software. So, anyways, that's kind of that. So we're going to wind it down here. 4:30. We're all sorry. I have to sign out of some software here. You know, I'm here on the weekends. You got questions? Send us an email here. We've got a video on it, almost everything. Um, we'll work with you. We get you guys. We'll get you what we can. There's a lot to the software. There's not one person that knows every single little thing about this software, not even the developers. Um, They all have their kind of specialties and things like that. You too, Debbie. Thanks for popping in. Appreciate it. Mitchell, I'm going to respond to you some stuff in that email there. I make it a personal mission of mine next week to make sure we've got whatever's going on sorted out. All right. 100%. I really appreciate everybody that comes in here. I think we have a pretty vibrant trading community here. I, you know, Do I have an agenda here? Yes, absolutely. I'd like more Trade Idea subscribers. We're a business like everybody else, but I also want to see successful traders. And so, anybody's welcome into these. You got a cousin, a brother, an uncle, a sister, an aunt, a long lost friend, a dog, a cat, a giraffe that want to learn trading. They don't have to jump into a Trade Idea subscription right away. They never have to jump into a Trade Idea subscription, period. They can come to these free live Q&As and come to the free traders room, hang out, take notes. Rome wasn't built overnight. There are no shortcuts in any of this, but you get different traders with different personalities, different time frames, different market thoughts. There's a lot of education here, regardless of the fact that we don't quote unquote teach trading. I believe in, the stronger the trading community is, the better off everybody's going to be. We don't succeed if you guys don't succeed as subscribers. We don't want subscribers that lose money. We want subscribers that win in the market. Thank you, Perfect Circle. You too have a great weekend, and appreciate hearing that, Debbie. I get a lot of emails. I get ones directed right at me that tell me that I'm trash. So hard not to get triggered by that, but it happens. TRD, you're welcome. Mitchell, again, thank you. Gaming Sisters, appreciate you coming in. Debbie, anything, good products. Mitchell, Perfect Circle, every one of you. I really appreciate everyone that comes in and engages. It really makes a big difference. Dreambox, sorry, I didn't see that comment that came in a little earlier there. Appreciate everyone. I appreciate you all coming in. You guys, everybody have a great weekend. And again, info@trade-ideas.com. If you need to get at us over the weekend, we'll get you some answers. All right. See you all back here. Barry will have this open 9 o'clock in the morning on Monday. And I'll be here at 3:30 Eastern on Monday. Take care and have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. Bye-bye.